Mental Health Commission of Canada, the foremost mental health organization in the country, offers courses on mental health in the workplace for businesses called The Working Mind. These courses are designed for employees and for managers to create awareness about mental health, break down stigma, create a resilient workplace that encourages people to talk about their own mental health, as well as guidance for managers. I'm a trained facilitator for the program and have asked Lauren Cleveland from Opening Minds to come on the show today to talk more about the working mind. Welcome, Lauren. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. The working mind is teaching people how to pay attention to their mental health. What is mental health? What are some signs? What are some indicators that you might be noticing? And then what can we do about it? So there are some coping strategies that we teach you in the working mind. So that is for really all employees. We would take your employees through that or individuals through that. And then an additional piece of the working mind would be the leadership piece or the manager piece of it, where we talk about how to support people through this. So it's not only recognizing signs in yourself, but also as a manager or a leader, being able to pay attention to those signs in other people. So that's that, like teach you how to pay attention.
And the working mind is it's about resilience in the workplace, right? So it's about personal resilience. And for a lot of people, this starts with, and the program starts with understanding what mental health is.
Mhm.
Because those of us who are in and working in the area, or in my case, with lived experience, we know what that is. And I remember when I did my facilitator program, I thought, well, this is pretty easy. But the other people in the group, they hadn't really dealt with mental illness. They didn't understand that element of it. So I love that it starts with that and helps people understand, okay, why am I in this course?
What does it mean to me? What have I noticed throughout my life that maybe I didn't acknowledge as a decline in my mental health, right? When I facilitate, one of the biggest things for me, and I'm similar to you, is that I have lived experience, is one of the first things that I notice when my mental health is declining is my sleep. And I find quite often that is for a lot of people, right? We're ruminating about things. We can't fall asleep. Our mind is racing, or we're waking up in the middle of the night thinking of things. So just kind of that, like, you might not have acknowledged it before, because a lot of times what we do is we say, you have a mental illness, you're sick, you're going to be sick forever. Here you are, figure it out. But you can be mentally healthy and also be diagnosed with a mental illness. It's those coping strategies and those things that you bring in. And like you said, learning about it, educating yourself into how I get back to that healthy space. So that is what I really love about it, is because there's all these light bulb moments that go off in people that are like, oh, I've never really thought of it like that. So yeah,
And it
just
may
that,
not even be in yourself, right?
that
It's it
exactly.
it helps you understand what's going on in your general workplace and people that you work with closely, where you might notice those kinds of things. And of course, we went through this in COVID. The number of people
Oh.
who had never experienced anxiety, and during that 4 or 5 year period, their anxiety skyrocketed. For a lot of those people, it
Mhm.
has sort of, gone away a little bit. But I've just read something from a company that has been tracking mental health since 2019, and people's mental health has not improved since
Mhm. Mhm.
2024, and that's a bit scary. And we're going to look at the mental health continuum in a second. But the other thing that people seem to understand, it exists, but they don't understand what it is, and that's stigma.
Mhm.
And people often
Mhm.
say to me, oh, stigma, it's really important that we get rid of stigma. But there are three types of stigma.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
even I didn't really think of that. But what are those three types of stigma that people can be looking for and trying to understand?
Yeah, so there's kind of our own stigma, right? What we bring to the table, because as a former corrections officer, I know for me that was just like, I can't be weak. I have to be able to do this job. But where did that come from, right? So there's public stigma, things that we learn, things that we other people might think about. you know, pe first responders or the unhomed, like things like that. There's different thought processes around that, and then that structural stigma. So even like what things are available to people to learn about mental health and reduce stigma. Because once we have that information, it's so much easier to think about it in a different way, change the perspective so that we can be like, oh, I've actually never thought about it that way. And we can start to have those conversations. We can start advocating for ourselves, for others, and for like policy changes so that we can. I mean, this is a beast. Stigma. We see it everywhere we go. I even hear my kids say it. And I'm like, whoa, 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 hold on a sec, or think things or say, and I'm like, wait a second, hold on. So I mean, as we break down these barriers, we will definitely see it be eliminated, but it is a job for everybody in workplaces, in everyday life. Just the words we use, we know can project stigma. So, mhm.
Yeah, I went through, interestingly, because I've been advocating for mental health for 30 years. I didn't realize until about 5 or 6 years ago that I self stigmatized. So I'm
Mm,
talking to people, but I'm saying to myself, oh, I don't know if I can do that. I've had these troubles. Oh, I've been diagnosed with. And sometimes I don't say, well, yeah, I was diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder, but that's been under control for a long time. It's not part of me anymore. And that's really hard. We also have to look at, again, in talking about, what mental illness is and what are people living with. Depression is, in my mind, it's okay. People are understanding bipolar disorder, but when you get to schizophrenia, all of
mhm,
a sudden, that is not on the table for people who say, yeah, stigma, yeah, that's always going to be stigmatized. So we have to look across the board at what
mhm,
everybody is experiencing.
That's so true because a lot of times it's just not having an experience with it or not being educated around it. But I have people in my family who have schizophrenia. So I'm privy to that information. I'm privy to some of those things. But yeah, if you haven't experienced it, it's really easy to have these specific thoughts around what it is and what it isn't. So, mhm,
You talked about at the beginning, teaching people resilience
mhm,
and how to understand what's happening. So I think that there's a couple of elements as well to that, because as we've been saying, mental illness is complex,
yeah, for sure.
and understanding it is complex. And so one of the things, and I want to talk about the mental health continuum, and ramp as we just go on with this, but resilience is where you can say to yourself, it's almost like a check. It's like a
Mhm,
checkbox, like, wow, I need something. So sometimes resilience involves, just some thought processes that we often can think are normal, but in the back of our mind are creating some chaos. So before you get to the understanding resilience and the need for it, one of the tools you have is the mental health continuum, and that's
mhm.
available to anybody. It's not actually just the Mental Health Commission. It's a great tool that a lot of our organizations and public sector are using. So, explain to me the mental health continuum. So you people keep it at their desk.
Yeah, so yeah, it's readily available online. What we facilitate through the Working Mind is a lot more in depth. So we kind of take you through this check, which is incredible. But yeah, the continuum is really just like looking at it as something that we go through, that we shift through, that we it's part of our everyday lives. So there's healthy, reacting, injured, and ill. So you can kind of think of it like green, yellow, orange, and red. And as we move along there, and really thinking about green. What am I doing when I feel my best? What does that look like? So, like I said before, I've been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and but I feel like for the most part, I'm in the green. I've done a lot of work with resilience and with a therapist and a psychiatrist to figure out when am I in the green? And I shift back and forth. I could be reacting, I could be orange. Reacting is kind of like, okay, I haven't slept for a few days. I have to remember, to get in my water and to, check in with myself. Why have I been staying up late? Do I need to, what are some bedtime things that I could be doing to help me, wind down before the evening? Have I been on my phone? Have I, maybe had a glass of wine? I know that doesn't work out for me all the time, especially as, you get a little bit older. It's keeps me up a lot longer than it used to. But little things like that and paying attention. Maybe I haven't been sleeping for a couple weeks now. Now we're moving into that like injured, like what is going on? I really need to start paying attention to this. But you do have the capacity to move back and forth along this depending on what's going on in your life. If you have a catastrophic event, maybe with a child or with a family member, you could easily be moved into that injured category by bypassing, that reacting because you're in a different state of mind. But then as you're like, okay, I acknowledge that I'm here. I have to probably be here for, a little bit longer. But what are the things that I could be doing in this moment that would help move me back towards the green? And as you build that resiliency and as you learn about yourself, then you will be able to figure out those things a lot quicker. But we know, even in that resiliency, might take 4 months the first time. Then you get back here, the next time it takes 3 months and 30 days or 15 days. And then the next time it takes. So it's really paying attention and acknowledging, okay, checking in with yourself. Where am I? Where am I today? Oh, I didn't realize I was there. Okay, great. What do I got to do? Connect with a friend, go for a walk, get outside. And everyone's is different. That is what I'm always talking about is that everybody's is so different. Um, yeah, so as you go through these, we teach you a few things, but really paying attention to what works for you, and what helps you get back to that baseline. That's what we kind of call that green. What's the baseline? You might always operate in yellow. You might not even know what green feels like, but we really encourage you to, schedule those things in the calendar, pay attention to sleep, and there's 5 different areas, what are some addictive behaviors that you've been involved in lately? What's your mood like? Are you irritable? Are you happy? What does that feel like? So there's different indicators that you can take a look at to really make an assessment of how you're doing in the moment, and then what are those things that bring you back towards the green, or what are some new things you could try that potentially could bring you back to the green. So, mhm.
Sometimes it's as simple as, and this is one of the first things I learned when I was starting to come out of that really critical stage. Like you said, monitor your sleep. So you sleep the same amount of time, you go to bed at the same time, you get up at the same time, you eat properly and at the
Mhm.
times that you should. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you get out. And I was lucky I had a dog. And so I'm a big
Oh,
proponent of
very
pets.
helpful. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a
Mhm.
big because they bring you that unconditional love, but they also get you out of the house. And
Mhm.
anybody who has a dog knows that number of conversations you have with complete strangers, which feels okay
Absolutely.
because you're talking about your dog,
Totally. Yep. Yep.
right?
I even think about like yesterday, I took my dog out to the mailbox and met with the neighbor and had a conversation. And yeah, so,
Yeah,
hmm
and for some people that's it, and some people find going out really, really hard.
hmm
And there are activities that maybe you do a Zoom call. We learned about that. So, like you said, there are different things that people can do. Let's talk about the big four.
Okay.
And again, to me, these seemed like, I'm not saying I'm good at doing them, but I thought, well, yeah, that's pretty normal. Um, but I want to start with catastrophic thinking because
Okay.
that was one of the bad ones for me. And you sort of alluded to that when you're sleeping. So one of the big four is catastrophic thinking. And how do you identify that in yourself?
hmm Well, yeah, it's really like that. How we talk to ourselves is a pretty big reflection about how we move through the world. And we might not think about it like that. But how we talk to ourselves is huge. So if you are one of those people that are like, I'm never gonna be, happy, or I'm never going to get that promotion, or those are the words that you want to start paying attention to, because that kind of puts you in this like, okay, worst case scenario, what you're going through these what ifs all the time. Um, it is one of those things that doesn't allow us to move forward because we're constantly reminding ourselves of how much we suck, or how you, like you said, when you lay in bed, you're like, here's the worst case scenario. Oh, I can probably make it even worse, right? And sometimes I always think, if you go and think, what's the worst thing that could happen? You could always flip it to think, what's the best thing that could happen, actually? And that is a pretty cool tool to start kind of thinking, okay, like, yeah, that's the worst thing, but what's the best thing that could happen if I flip that switch a little bit? But yeah, we lots of people have that thinking of, when we start to question those what ifs, or if we start to think about things, we go down this spiral of, wow, this could happen and this could happen
Yeah,
and
it's
that could
kind of
happen.
the coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? And should is a bad word. And it's interesting if you pay attention to how often you say, you know what you should do, or even to yourself. I notice if I sit down on the couch, I'm not folding laundry, I'm not doing something. I'm like, I should get up and do something. Nope. Nope, I remind myself, just be for 5 minutes and then you can decide if you need to be doing something.
I
But we
guess you
shit
could
on
flip.
ourselves all the time.
Yeah, I guess you could flip that and say, you know what? I want to fold laundry.
Yeah,
Because that,
yeah.
sometimes folding laundry or
I
doing
get to
something
fold
like that, then
laundry.
you feel like, okay, now I can sit down and watch TV and not worry
Mhm.
about it. Uh, the working mind also helps you identify in people you work with, and especially probably close people that you work with, where they might be on the continuum. But it's also really important because there's the employee, but there's the manager, which is critical in the workplace. That my first thing I say to people is create a safe space. You
Yeah.
have to create a safe space.
hmm
What are the things that managers have to do to go that one step forward from the recognizing that there might be something going on with a person?
For
um
sure. And one of the biggest things I want to share is like, we never want to diagnose people. We can't, that's also
yes.
not up to us to diagnose ourselves, or to sit back and say, oh, well, this employee has a mental illness. That's not your job. But really being able to pay attention to yourself, right? So that awareness and self to say, like, I know this continuum, I know where I am. But also acknowledging that, this person maybe has been showing up late every day, or which isn't their usual behavior. We're kind of paying attention to like, what is what's different or what's unusual for people. So really knowing your people is the biggest thing, so that you can know when they start moving back and forth on that continuum, and really just being comfortable talking, opening up, like you said, that safe space for people to have those conversations. Because honestly, I have worked for organizations where I did not feel safe to share what was going on. I did not feel safe to have conversations. But of course, obviously, I work for the mental health continuum. I work for the Mental Health Commission of Canada. A little bit of a tongue twister there, MHCC, MHCCT, all these things that we use. But I am very, very comfortable going to any leader in my or any other employee in my organization and having a conversation about what's going on in my life and not feeling like it's going to be used against me or that, I was actually in a meeting with my team, our team, and I picked up my phone, and on my phone, which I don't normally have it here, my best friend texted me and said, "My dad has died." And I can still feel it right now, like what happened in that moment. But everybody was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, actually, I'm not okay. Like, I have to go." And I said, "My friend's dad has died." And they were like, "Bye, like, go do what you need to do." I don't think most organizations would even care if someone's friend's dad died. Like, okay, put your phone away. We're in a meeting. Like, they were like, "Go do what you
And
need to
like, hey,
do."
it's not your dad. So,
Yeah, like,
but when
but
it's a
but
close
like
friend,
the visible response in my
mhm.
body, the whole team was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm actually not okay. Like I have to go." And okay, yeah, go. Even day of the funeral. I remember when I worked for, a big organization, my uncle passed away and I was like, I said it was my grandpa because uncle wouldn't have qualified for me to take the afternoon off to go to his
Wow.
funeral, right?
Wow.
And we do see this, but I'm like, he was like a grandfather to me. I was very, very close with him. But that didn't matter because it wasn't in part of the thing. But like with this, it was like I was like, "Okay, my friend's dad's funeral." They're like, "Bye, go do." And honestly, I'll tell you, when you think about things like that and the productivity and what that does for a human being to be acknowledged as, you know what, this might not be your dad, but I don't know the relationship you have with this person. But like I grew up with this family and it was devastating to me. And just sharing that information was like, you know what, Lauren, go do the funeral. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Everybody here will be fine without you for the day. I felt very seen. I felt very connected. I felt very supported. And I'll tell you, I give this organization everything I got because they give me everything they've got. And that is a reciprocal relationship that you don't that we are starting to see people pay attention to. Work and life are not separate, unfortunately, especially in this like world of I work in my home, right? Like my kids are puking in the bathroom beside me some days if they're not feeling well. And it's really hard, especially if someone from work, it's really hard to separate those two lives. And I think for a lot of organizations, opening up those doors, creating that safe space, what's happening here, but also what's happening out there, because we know it does affect you. If you have a sick parent or going through a divorce or, that does affect how you show up at your workplace, but really allowing those things to be open conversation so that it's normalized and we reduce that stigma around, you know, what happens at home stays at home too, right? Of don't bring that here, not right. So yeah, it's really important that not only employees have this information, but that managers and leaders have it. So when an employee comes to you and can say, okay, this has been going on for a while. That means orange. That means that my job here is to, you know, assist you with, maybe it's giving you EAP information, maybe it's connecting you
Right.
with resources, maybe it's like, hey, here's someone that you connect with. We have a peer support team or those sorts of things. So yeah, both really, really important.
Lauren,
Yeah,
thanks for coming on and talking about this. And I love being part of the program.
we love
And
having
I,
you.
if you're interested in offering the working mind to your employees or managers, please visit my website at janicearnoldy.com.